Hello and welcome to a special edition of Unity with Pam. We are here with a national book author, and her name is Deborah Stein, and she wrote the book, Even Tough Girls Wear Tutus. And I want to go ahead and say, welcome to Unity.
Thank you, Pam, for having me on.
Tell my viewers, they're like, tough girls wear tutus, and tell us a little bit about your background.
That story started out of, two things. I used to love to dance and wore a tutu when I was little. My parents sent me to dance classes, but I had in my mind that I shouldn't dance because I thought it was tough. And that backs up into a story that I learned later when I was a teen, that I was born in a prison, that my mother was a heroin addict, and so I thought I needed to be tough. I thought I came out of somewhere that was really different, and that I couldn't do something that was kind of frilly and pretty like dance when I thought that shouldn't be part of my story. So I quit, but I continued to love it. So that's just the story of the book and how the tutu came about. But really, I started thinking everybody has parts that don't fit together, and I had this really soft, gentle part, and this part of my history that's kind of tough.
You know, I was reading the book where you was a child, and you were going through, I want to say the cadenza, if I'm saying that correctly, looking through, you was restricted, as we call it here in the South. You're on restriction, you can't do anything.
Grounded.
Yeah. That's a good word. And you ran across a letter that talked about your real name and knowing that you was adopted. What was that like when you saw that letter? What did you go through when you read that?
I was terrified. It scared me. Anything prison is scary to anybody. So to read that as a child and know that I was born in one, and I later learned that I had stayed there, and this is in West Virginia, so I feel like I have a little bit of southern roots there. But I remember thinking, I don't belong where I am in my adoptive family, and I also knew that I didn't really belong back in West Virginia. So I just went on this road of thinking I didn't fit in anywhere. And it took a turn for the worse. I started taking drugs and eventually joined a gang. I had a kind of a rough young adulthood. And a lot of people have rebellion. Mine was just filled with rage and lashing out. So a little bit more than rebellion.
You know, you also, your mother, you talk about your adopted mother, how sweet she was. And the things she did was she liked cutting flowers and different things. How did you know that I don't belong? I know you said you knew you was adopted in the book, but how did you know, even being adopted, I just didn't connect to this family?
Right. I knew I didn't fit. I was adopted by a Jewish family, and I'm multiracial. My dad's 6'5", I'm about 5'3". So first of all, I looked different, and I just felt, kids know, I just felt something was different. Now, my parents told me I was adopted. I knew that, but I was teased in the neighborhood. I was teased on the bus. So I just, we're talking 1960s. It was a different world. And I just felt like I didn't fit in. There was nothing I could put my finger on, even before I read that letter.
You know, I wonder sometimes when I was reading your book, the impact that must have had. What about your siblings? I noticed you talked about how things just went different once you read the letter for you. It took a whole, like you were one that reclused into yourself. How did you get from reclusion, how did you know when you could come out and just, I'm going to be Deborah today, but then I'm going to recluse today? How did you do that?
Well, it wasn't a black and white thing like that, but I was already kind of timid and afraid of the world. Finding that information just drove me into a deeper, darker hole. My brother didn't know any of this information, my adopted brother, but everyone around me knew that I was troubled, is what it was called. I was just getting into trouble. And I felt troubled. They sent me for help, to see the school counselor and a psychiatrist. I just wasn't going to accept any help. So it was a journey. But I went from being probably just a timid girl to being a terrified girl.
I look at that too. I said, you're a timid girl. The person I'm looking at just doesn't seem like what's in this book.
I know.
You just seem like such a strong person, so strong. But you would never look at you to think that, wow, you spent a year of your life in prison.
I did. And it's nothing I remember. I actually don't have bad feelings about it. I think the problems for me came when I started being moved from prison to foster home to adoption. Just a lot of moves for a baby. You get attached, and then it's important to stay attached, and I kept being unattached. So I don't think prison was my problem. You know, I think I say that in the book. It was like a slumber party, 200 women and me. That's just it's not a bad thing to be surrounded by that kind of love.
I even read in your book where you had got the file sent to you for you to look through it and find out the information.
Did.
How long did it take you to go through all of that?
I don't think I've done it all. Every once in a while I still pull it out. When I first got it, I thought I was looking through the whole thing, but I realized 900 pages of documents, that's a lot. That's a lot to go through. I learned then that my first name was Madeline Mary. I'd seen that before, but I just hadn't really seen it in documents. It took me forever. It was health documents, it was my mother's prison records, a little bit about my placement. So, big history there.
Well, we're going to go to commercial break, and then we're going to come back more with Deborah Stein, the author of Even Tough Girls Wear Tutus.
Unity with Pam Willis-Hovey is being brought to you by these sponsors.
When you've been hurt in an accident, it helps to have experienced, knowledgeable attorneys to help you in your time of need. For over 30 years, our office has been helping victims in auto and truck accidents or with work-related injuries. We resolve thousands of cases both in and out of court. So if you've been hurt and it wasn't your fault,
talk to Walt.
Talk to Walt. Talk to Walt.
Talk to Walt.
For your free consultation, call today, 1-855-GO-ASK-WALT.
For more than 60 years, the Dairy Queen recipe for success has been simple. It's been a combination of hardworking people, great tasting food, and tempting treats served in our establishments every day. Although a lot has changed in 60 years, some things remain the same. The smiles on children's faces, a treat for a good report card, close friends enjoying a great meal, and families spending quality time together. Here at DQ, we are always committed to treat you right.
When Bill Larson's brakes started squeaking. When Pam Summers' check engine light went on. And before Tom headed out on vacation. They all came here. Midas. Total car care. Total customer care. That's the Midas touch.
Welcome you to be a part of our ministry. This is not a put on, but this is a come on. And we come to share in our different ministries with our dance team, with our choir, and our TV ministry. And we looking for great things to happen, great miracles to happen within this great thing to happen, great miracles to happen within this place. Come and be a part of the blessing plan.
Hello and welcome back to a special edition of Unity. We're here on location and we're talking to Deborah Stein. She is the book author of Even Tough Girls Wear Tutus. And I want to go ahead and say, welcome back to Unity.
Thank you again, Pam.
Well, you talked about finding out your real name, Madeline. Okay, I've got to ask you, what was that like when you've always known Deborah?
It felt familiar. I can't say that I remember it, but it felt like a familiar name to me. Just the sound felt familiar. But it's different. I mean, I was used to this one name, Deborah Kate. Kate's my middle name. So it was just another identity shift. That's what it's been all along, just an identity shift. Who am I? Where do I belong? Where I don't belong? Things like that.
When did you ever find out I'm Deborah and I can belong?
I think I'm still in that journey, but
really?
I am. I know it looks like
it looks like you got it all together.
Well, I learned really early on to put that out, but I'm a lot more together than I was. I'm still exploring that. I don't know who my birth father is, so I don't know a whole half side of me. But when I started speaking in prisons and started speaking in public like this, I knew that this is what I was born to do, to bring and carry this message of we all have struggles, we all have a lot to overcome, but there's no reason we can't be a whole, complete person in mind, body, and spirit. So it's a journey, though.
How did you start taking your background and wanting to go back into prisons? Knowing this is where you was born, a lot of people would run from it. But what made you want to give back to the people in prison, especially the women?
Especially the women. And that's a cause that I've taken on, because 800% increase in the incarceration of women means that we need to do something out here. So in the beginning, I started teaching and conducting creative writing workshops because I'm a writer, and I hardly said that I was born in a prison. Right.
Okay.
I mentioned it to the women, and then I went on because I thought they brought me in to teach writing and to talk about literature. I'll do that. And so they were filling the room with maybe 20 or 30 inmates, and then I got a request to speak in the gym, and they filled the gym with 300 women, 400 women at different prisons. And I realized this is a chance. They're asking me for more than just my writing. They want to hear my story. So I started eking that out, and the response I got from the women, most of the mothers told me that this is what I need to do with my life. I needed to give back. Because you don't meet many women on the other side like this.
No, you don't.
I meet women, girls who have been born in prison, and I meet them in prison. Second, third generations. I was in a prison, I met a grandmother, her daughter, who was maybe in her 40s, and then a baby in the nursery, because they have nurseries in some prisons. 3 generations. So I knew that I'd had a chance to break out of it. And it's the right thing to do. I wanted to give back.
I'm listening to you where you talk about third generations in prison. I've got to ask you, since this is your ministry, what's the cycle of why there so many generations keep going back? What's
Drugs.
the cycle? Okay.
Drug addiction and mental illness. And in my mind, I'm not completely about prison reform, but I'm about changing the person.
Okay.
And drug addiction can be treated out here, as can depression and suicidal tendencies. So I don't think that's solved in prison. I think it's solved out here in the community.
Tell people about your project, your ministry, what you do.
Thank you for asking that. So I've been doing this work for 10 years, and a couple years ago, a small group of women said, you really should form a nonprofit. You could find funding that way. We formed a nonprofit called the Unprisoned Project, and I didn't want to organize anything, and then I realized by organizing, I can really have a mission to make some changes. So the Unprisoned Project is an outreach to cultivate hope and also cultivate things like literacy and encourage drug rehab, mental health changes. The things that I healed myself can happen to the 150,000 women in prison. So I'm bringing a message, and I go in as a teacher and a mentor. And eventually they can do that. I'd like for some of those women to step in my shoes, and they can become part of the Unprisoned Project. But right now it's myself and my small board.
So when you talk about the Unprisoned Project, is it also changing the mindset, the way they see themselves?
Exactly, which is how I had to see myself, right?
Oh, okay.
Because that's how I got here. I had to say to myself, I am more than just a girl born in prison. I'm beyond, I don't define myself by where I started. It's a part of my story, but I just don't define myself that way. My birth mother's a heroin addict. It doesn't mean that I have to be, although I went that road. And that's another thing that's generational. I meet that with the women. So the women I meet, I think of them as something way beyond being inmates. They are more than inmates. They are mothers and grandmothers and sisters and aunts, and they can be somebody.
You know, I just listened to you. You're such an inspiration. Before we close this segment out, tell my viewers, if somebody's looking, they say, I see Deborah, she's wrote a book author, she's had a tough time. I don't think that I can come out. Encourage somebody that they can come out.
First of all, I'd like to encourage people to look at my website, theunprisonedproject.org, and my contact emails there. I'm not a therapist, I'm not a minister, but I know about hope and I know about overcoming things. So the tools that I used were I got help, I got counseling, I used support groups, I turned to other women, and I started trusting people. It sounds complicated, but in a lot of ways it's really simple. I started trusting people and I got help.
And tell them how, if they want to use you, how can they contact you? So maybe they want somebody wants Deborah to come speak for them at their church or an event or wherever have you. How can they do that?
I would love that, and I travel the country doing that, so feel free to welcome me. Through the unprisonedproject.org, if you email info@unprisonedproject.org, you'll find me, and I'm really good at responding to emails, and I sometimes call people if that's easier, so I'm enjoying the experience of meeting people and being of service.
Well, Ms. Deborah, thank you so much for doing my show. I appreciate you.
Thank you,
Thank you
Pam.
for coming to Columbus,
Thank
Georgia.
you. I'm excited about it.
Well, we're going to commercial break, and then we're coming back with one of our special guests from Bethany.
Unity with Pam Willis-Hovey is being brought to you by these sponsors.
Come into Chester's Barbecue for our world-famous mouth-watering ribs, smoked fresh on our grill daily. Or try one of our barbecue pork plates with fresh sides. Chester's has delicious sandwich combos to choose from that are sure to please. We also serve tempting home-cooked favorites. And don't forget to take home your own bottle of great sauce. Chester's Barbecue, serving the best food at the best price, with 3 locations to serve you.
You love your parents, and it's hard to see them struggle to keep their independence. Magnolia Manor can give your parents the assistance they need to enjoy life. You won't have to worry if they are eating well or taking their medications properly. And they'll be in a safe, secure environment with no need to worry about cleaning house or doing yard work. Visit magnoliamanor.com to learn more. Magnolia Manor, just down the road. A community of convenience, caring, and fun.
My name is Japal. 2 years ago, I received a kidney transplant. When I was 21 years old, I started dialysis, and for 7.5 years, I was a patient receiving treatments 3 times a week for 4 hours each session, and man, it was hard. After receiving my kidney transplant, I was able to find and marry the love of my life. My kidney transplant gave me my life back.
You have the power to donate life. Be an organ, eye, and tissue donor. To find out how, go today to donatelifegeorgia.org.
When you've been hurt in an accident, it helps to have experienced and knowledgeable attorneys to help you in your time of need. For over 30 years, our office has been helping victims in auto and truck accidents or with work-related injuries. We resolve thousands of cases both in and out of court. So if you've been hurt and it wasn't your fault, talk to Walt.
Talk to Walt.
Habla con Walt.
Talk to Walt.
Enrichment Services is giving a young child in our community a head start on kindergarten. Enrichment Services is providing a nutritious meal for senior citizens. Enrichment Services, a host of educational and assistance programs to benefit all ages.
Hello and welcome back to a special edition of Unity. We are here with Ms. Niam Drayton, and she's going to be talking about Bethany and what all Bethany does. And I want to go ahead and say, welcome to Unity.
Thank you very much, Pam.
Well, educate my viewers on Bethany.
Well, Bethany Christian Services is a national, actually it's an international organization, and we're headquartered in Grand Rapids, Michigan. But we have offices in over 100 locations nationwide, and we also are in 19 countries around the world on 5 continents. Bethany Christian Services is a child welfare agency. We do primarily adoptions, that's what we're known for, and we do provide other services as well.
You know, tell my viewers, somebody is thinking about adoption, they're probably feeling like, I can't afford it. I mean, I want to do it, I can't afford it. What steps do I go through? I want to expand my family. Take them through that, what it's like.
Well, it depends on what type of adoption the person wants to do. We offer various kinds of adoption. We do domestic adoptions, we do international adoptions, and we also do all the child adoptions. All the child adoptions is through the state. You know, children in the child welfare system in foster care who are going into permanency through adoption. We provide services to enable families become adoptive parents. And we also provide services to enable parents to become adoptive parents through domestically. Those are infants, actually. When we parents who want to actually adopt infants, we take them through our domestic adoption program. Then parents who want to adopt internationally, we take them through international adoptions. International adoptions, we have fees, you know, and it varies from country to country because we have adoptions through 13 countries at the moment, and each country has different fees for that adoption. Domestic adoptions, we also have fees for domestic adoptions because, of course, you have legal fees, you have home study fees, you have placement fees, and so on and so forth. But the easiest, all the child adoption, you can adopt through the older child adoption, through the state, because it's state funded. And so there are basically no fees for older child adoption, apart from maybe little legal fees when the time comes to adopt the child. And with older child adoption, you can adopt children from 0 to 18 years, as the case may be. But usually you do have children who are more difficult to place in older child adoption. And children from 8 to 18 are children who are mostly available for adoption. Mm-hmm.
Are you seeing more and more people adopting now, even though the economy is tough? Mm-hmm. Are people still adopting children in tough times?
Well, you know, adoption is something that you want to do because you want a child.
Okay.
So despite the economy, you know, the need to have a child is always there. It's not going to go away. You know, people adopt for various reasons. Sometimes people adopt because they can't have children of their own. And of course, you're not going to not want a child because the economy is down. And at the same time, others adopt because they want to give other children a home. You know, one good thing about Bethany is that Bethany is a Christian organization, and our mission, of course, is to manifest the love and compassion of Jesus Christ by protecting and enhancing the lives of children and families through quality social services. So Bethany Christian Services supports families throughout adoption, the adoption process. So despite the economy, we do provide services to our families that can enable them adopt, you know, without actually feeling the pinch.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, how are you getting more children to you?
We get more children. We go into the community. You know, we have orientations in the community. We also have orientations at our offices. At Bethany in Georgia, we have 3 locations. We have one in Columbus here. We have one in, actually 2 locations in Atlanta and 1 location in Augusta. So we try to serve the entire state. We have contract workers around the state who kind of work with Bethany to provide orientation and also provide home study services for families who are interested in adopting. So what they initially have to do is to contact us. If a family is interested in adopting, they call Bethany Christian Services, and we have a 1-800 number. But we also have a number in Columbus here that they can call and a number in Atlanta that they can call. And when they call, we provide them with information on the adoption process, and we invite them to come for an orientation wherever the orientation is located, whether it's in the community or it's in our office. So we invite them to come in, and after the orientation, then we do training for them. 6-week training if it's for adoption, domestic adoption. We also have web-based training as well, and it's a 20-hour training for older child adoption, and for international adoption, we have a web-based training for that as well. So when they're done with the training, we now do a home study. They go through the home study process, where we go to their homes and just try to learn more about them and assess the home, because we want to make a good match for the child. It's very important because Bethany is committed to working with children and families. So we want to ensure that when we make a match, it's a forever family, and that child is maintained forever in that home.
Well, tell my viewers also, what are some of the needs that Bethany, how that the community can help Bethany? What are some of your needs?
Oh, well, we invite families who, with their children, there are a lot of children waiting to be adopted. And we also have a need for foster families as well. And of course, one of our greatest needs, of course, is funding. With the economy, you mentioned the economy.
Yes, ma'am.
Mm-hmm. So we try to support our families as much as we can, but a lot of our adoptions are subsidized. Older child adoptions is actually, we have a state contract to provide older child adoptions, but domestic adoptions and international adoptions, we subsidize. So we fundraise in order to be able to subsidize those adoptions. So that's kind of and that's why we're here today at a fundraising banquet. So we hope that we can reach out more to the community and that the community can hear our cry and come forward to help us.
Now tell my viewers before we close this show out, which will be with you, how can they contact Bethany and put some, I'm going to say it, how can they contact Bethany and put some money in Bethany? Is that all right to say that?
Yes.
Okay.
How can they contact Bethany? Well, they can call 1-800-BETHANY because that's the number that anybody can remember, 1-800-BETHANY. And if they call 1-800-BETHANY and they mention that this is what they want to do, they will be directed to the right person. And they can also get on the website, www.bethany.org, and click on whatever state that they're interested in putting money into, and it will take them directly to either Atlanta or Columbus, and they can now click on a drop box, and they will be encouraged to donate through that.
Well, Naam, I want to say thank you so much for doing my show. I appreciate you, and I want to tell you thank you. Thank you, Columbus and our community, for just keeping Unity with Pam on the air, because like she said, funds is tight. So we're asking you to support all non-profits. We really need your help. And remember, always show love in the community.
Unity with Pam Willis Hovey is being brought to you by these sponsors.
When you've been hurt in an accident, it helps to have experienced and knowledgeable attorneys to help you in your time of need. For over 30 years, our office has been helping victims in auto and truck accidents or with work-related injuries. We resolve thousands of cases both in and out of court. So if you've been hurt and it wasn't your fault,
talk to Walt. Talk to Walt. Talk to Walt.
Talk to Walt. For your free consultation, call today, 1-855-GO-ASK-WALT.
For more than 60 years, the Dairy Queen recipe for success has been simple. It's been a combination of hardworking people, great tasting food, and tempting treats served in our establishments every day. Although a lot has changed in 60 years, some things remain the same. The smiles on children's faces, a treat for a good report card, close friends enjoying a great meal, and families spending quality time together. Here at DQ, we are always committed to treat you right.
Enrichment Services is giving a young child in our community a head start on kindergarten. Enrichment Services is providing a nutritious meal for senior citizens. Enrichment Services, a host of educational and assistance programs to benefit all ages.